Good evening, friend. It is good to have you here again tonight. Before we begin, let yourself grow heavy where you lie, ease your shoulders down from wherever they have been holding all day, and let your breath slow on its own, until it is the only thing you are still keeping track of. Tonight, we're going back, all the way back, to the summer of 1895, and we are boarding a private railroad car bound overnight from New York to Newport. One car, one family asleep inside it, and a small handful of people who will stay awake all night so that the family need never think about the dark. At the height of the season, there were already a great many of these cars in America, whole houses that could move, and their number was growing every year, and we are riding in one of the finest through the country toward the sea. If this is the kind of quiet history that helps you drift off, a subscribe and a like help these long nights find the others who are lying awake too. There is no need to do a thing now. Do it in the morning or never at all. But if you like, before you sink, tell me where in the world you are listening from tonight and what the hour is where you are. I am thinking of someone in a cold room with one lamp still on and someone on a long, dark road, and now of you. So dim your light. Let the room go soft and warm around you, and come with me, back to a station in the city at dusk, to a single car waiting at the end of a train, its lamps just coming up against the falling night. Come with me first to the far end of the train, where the light is thin and the platform is quiet, and find the car we will ride tonight. It is the last one, it always is. A private car rode at the tail of the train, behind the baggage and behind the public cars, coupled on at the very end so that its rear door and its little open porch looked back down the track the way we had come. There it sits in the failing light of a summer evening in the city, dark green or deep wine in colour, long and heavy and still, waiting to be taken out into the night. To a stranger hurrying past on the platform it might be almost nothing, one more car among many. But step up into it, and you have stepped into a house. We are early, and that is on purpose. The family will not come for another hour, and so for now the car belongs to the people who keep it, and the first thing to know about tonight is that they have been here for a long time already. A private car is never simply boarded at the last moment and set rolling. It is prepared the way a great house is prepared for guests, slowly and completely, so that by the time the family arrive there is nothing left for them to do but be carried. Let us give the man in charge of all this a name. Let us say he is the steward, and his name is Mr. Cole, and he has run this car on this run more times than he can count. The steward is the head of the little household on wheels. He keeps the accounts and the keys, he orders the food and the ice and the flowers, he lays the table and pours the wine, and he sees to it that the family who own the car want for nothing between the city and the sea. Tonight he came aboard in the middle of the afternoon, while the sun was still high over the yards, and he has been at work ever since. The ice came first, heaved up in dripping blocks and packed into the lined chest in the pantry, enough to keep the larder cold and the wine cool and the water fresh all the way to Newport. Then the food, carried aboard in baskets and crates, the fish on ice, the meat, the vegetables, the fruit, the bread, the coffee, all of it stowed in its fitted places. Every cupboard in a car like this is built to hold its contents still against the motion, with little rails and slots and hooks, so that nothing slides and nothing rattles when the wheels begin to roll. Mr. Cole knows every one of those places by heart. He could find the salt in the dark, and before the night is over he very nearly will. While the steward saw to the larder, the porter saw to the rooms. We will meet him properly soon. For now know only that the beds have been made up with fresh linen, the staterooms aired and dusted, the lamps filled and their wicks trimmed to burn clean, the mirrors wiped, the carpet brushed, the little bathroom set with fresh towels and water. The flowers came aboard last, cut that afternoon, and stand now in a slim silver vase fixed to the wall of the parlour, a small brave spot of colour in a car that is all deep wood and shadow in the fading light. Outside, the yard goes about its evening. There is the far clang of coupling somewhere down the tracks, the hiss of steam let off, A voice calling a number, the slow heavy breathing of a locomotive being made ready far up at the head of the train. Inside our car, none of that has quite arrived yet. Inside there is only the quiet of a room that is ready and waiting, the faint smell of oiled wood and fresh flowers and the coffee Mr. Cole has going in the pantry, and the last grey daylight lying flat across the polished tables. This is the hour before the journey, and it has its own particular calm. Everything that can be done has been done. The car is provisioned, made, and lit. The long dark run to the coast is still ahead, unspent, like a made bed no one has yet lain in. And a handful of people stand ready inside a small warm room at the end of a train, waiting to carry a family through a night the family will barely remember in the morning. There is a whole manifest to a night like this, if you could see it laid out. The linen for the beds and the linen for the table counted and folded away. The silver, the serving plate, and the flatware, and the little dishes, each piece in its slot. The crystal, the wine glasses and the water glasses, and the tall thin ones for champagne, packed in felt so they will not chime against each other with the sway. The china for each course of the dinner, the wines chosen that morning and laid down cold in the pantry, the coffee and the cream and the sugar, the candles, the oil, the spare wicks trimmed and ready, the flowers, the ice. A private car carried its own small world of things, and every one of them had been brought aboard by hand this afternoon and stowed in its fitted place, so that tonight the family would find a table that wanted for nothing and never once wonder how it all came to be there. And the people who carried it aboard are calm now, in the waiting hour. They have the particular ease of those who are ready early. Mr. Cole stands in his pantry with his coffee, going over the evening in his head, course by course. James has finished the rooms and stands a moment at a dark window watching the yard. Henry's range is warming at the far end. Nobody hurries, because there is nothing left to hurry for. The hardest part of their night, the long careful making ready, is already behind them, done in the quiet of the afternoon, so that when the family come there will be only the smooth practiced business of carrying them through to morning. That is the whole shape of tonight if you want it in one picture. A warm room at the end of a train, and careful hands that have made it ready, and a dark country waiting outside to be crossed. In a little while the family will come, and the lamps will come up, and we will begin. But hold this quiet moment first. The ready car in the thin last light, because everything that follows rests on it. And now the daylight is nearly gone from the windows. It is time to see to the lamps. Come with me down the car and let us watch the light come up inside as the light goes down outside, one soft flame at a time. Watch the windows for a moment before anyone touches a lamp. The sky over the city is doing that slow evening thing, going from gold to a deep rose, and then to violet, and the tall panes of the car hold each colour in turn and then let it go. Inside, the car is growing dim. The polished wood, so warm in daylight, has gone to shadow. It is the hour when a room seems to hold its breath and wait to be lit. And so the porter goes down the car and lights it, and the whole feeling of the night changes with him. Let us give him his name now, because he will be with us until morning, longer than anyone. Let us say his name is James, and that he has kept this car through many nights, and that there is very little about a railroad car in the dark he does not know. Tonight, as the dusk comes down, he goes from lamp to lamp with the unhurried care of a man who has done this 1,000 times, and one by one the little flames come up, and one by one the shadows are pushed back into the corners. The light in a fine car of this year came from something new and rather wonderful. It was called Pintsch gas, a compressed oil gas stored in cylinders slung beneath the floor of the car, and it burned in fixed lamps with a steady, clean, golden flame. It was far brighter and far steadier than the old oil lamps it had begun to replace, and far safer than the smoky stoves and open flames of the cars of a generation before. The very finest express trains of these years ran on it. The famous white train of the New England lines, which was still running in this same summer of 1895, was lit by exactly this gas and warmed by steam piped back from the engine, and it was thought the last word in modern comfort. So the light coming up around us now is a modern light. Proud and new, even as it feels as old and soft as candlelight. And there are candles too, and shaded oil lamps kept for the places where the gas would be too bright and too plain. On the dining table, a candle in a weighted holder that will not tip with the sway. Beside the sofa in the parlour, a lamp with the shade of rose-coloured silk that throws a warm blush across the wall. James sees to these as well, and now the car is full of light of two kinds, the clear steady glow of the gas along the ceiling and the low-coloured pools of the lamps below, and everywhere the deep wood drinks it in and gives it back as a soft shine. Look what the light does to the windows. A moment ago they were full of the dying sky. Now, as the car grows brighter than the world outside, they turn slowly to black mirrors, and instead of the yard beyond them we begin to see ourselves. The lamps, the flowers, the gleam of the table, all reflected in the dark glass. This is one of the great quiet pleasures of a lit train at night, and we will come back to it again and again. The window stops being a way out and becomes a way in, a dark frame around the warm room so that the whole world seems to be the little bright car and nothing else. Now hold this in your mind because it matters more than it seems. Every one of these lamps that James has just lit will, in a few hours, be put out again. When the family have dined and talked and gone to their beds, he will go back down the car the other way and turn the lamps down one by one until only a single low light is left burning in the corridor through the deep of the night. That one lamp is the small quiet heart of this whole journey, and we'll watch it kept all night long. But that is hours away, for now the car is fully, warmly lit, every lamp awake, and the night has only just begun. It is hard from where we sit to feel how new and how marvellous this steady light once was. Think of the people aboard this car who were born 40 or 50 years before, in a world lit by candle and by oil, where a lamp smoked and guttered and had to be watched, where a flame was a small chore that never quite left you alone. And now, at the turn of a little key, a clean bright flame that simply held hour after hour without smoke, without trimming, without care. To them it was a small miracle, and they said so, a light that came and stayed at the turn of a key and troubled no one at all. That is exactly what it was, a luxury, the luxury of light you never had to think about, and the family aboard tonight have already stopped noticing it, which is the surest sign of a luxury fully arrived. James moves without hurry and almost without sound. The carpet underfoot is thick, so thick that a man crossing the car makes no noise at all, and he has learned to move with the sway before it has even started, the way a sailor learns a deck. He trims a wick here, adjusts a shade there, sets a lamp a half-inch straighter. None of it will be noticed by the family when they come. That is the point. The light will simply be there, perfect and warm, as though the car had always been lit, as though light were the natural state of this small room and darkness, something that happened only to the world outside. There is a great tenderness in that, if you look for it. A man goes quietly ahead of you through the dusk, lighting your way before you know you need it, so that you never once step into the dark. You will not thank him, because you will not see him do it. You will only find the room warm and bright when you arrive. Keep that in your mind as we go, because it is the truest thing about this car and everyone who keeps it. The lamps are lit. The windows have gone to black glass. The car stands warm and glowing at the end of the train, ready now for the people it will carry. Before they come, let us look properly at the room the light has revealed, at the woods and the fabrics and the small perfect fittings of it, because a car like this was one of the most beautiful things the age knew how to build. Come a little further in. Now that the lamps are lit, look at what they have lit. Run your eye slowly down the car and let it rest on the wood, because the wood is the first thing anyone remembered about a car like this, and the last thing they forgot. It is mahogany, mostly. Dark, close-grained, reddish-brown mahogany, oiled and polished and rubbed by hand until it holds the lamplight the way still water holds the moon. And with it, worked into the panels and the doors and the frames, are other fine woods chosen for their colour and their grain, pale satinwood, warm rosewood, French walnut, and here and there a panel of marquetry, small pieces of different woods fitted together into a pattern like a picture made without paint. The men who built these cars were furniture makers as much as they were railroad men, and they treated the inside of a private car the way a cabinet maker treats a jewel box, as a surface where no join should show and no edge should be rough. Everything that could be carved has been carved gently, a moulding here, a bead of wood along an edge there, nothing loud, nothing that shouts, only the quiet richness of a room where a great deal of skilled work has gone into things you would only notice if they were done badly. The ceiling above us is finished in a lighter tone, a pale ground with thin lines of gilt, so that the eye travels up from the deep glowing wood to something softer and brighter overhead, the way it might rise in a fine room from dark panelling to a painted ceiling. To understand how far this went, it helps to look at a real car that still survives, because it is easy to think we are exaggerating, and we are not. There was a private car called the Atalanta, from the world of the financier Jay Gould, and that car is preserved to this day. Inside its single long body, it carried 4 staterooms, a lavish lounge, an elegant dining room, a fully equipped kitchen, and a butler's pantry. Think of that. 4 bedrooms, a sitting room, a dining room, a kitchen, and a pantry, all inside one railroad car, all finished to the standard of a mansion, all able to be hooked to the back of a train and taken anywhere the rails ran. That was the standard grammar of a top private car, and the car we are riding tonight is built to the same plan. Underfoot there is carpet, deep and soft and patterned, the kind that swallows sound and warms the feet and makes a room feel finished. On the finest cars of these years the carpet was thick enough that a servant crossing in the night made no sound at all, and the family walked as though on the floor of their own parlour. Along the windows hang curtains of silk and heavier draperies that can be drawn across the black glass when the family want the world shut out entirely. The chairs in the parlour end are deep and generous, upholstered in plush, that thick soft cloth like velvet the age loved, in gold or wine or deep green, and there is a sofa long enough to lie along, and small tables fixed cleverly to the floor and the walls so they cannot wander with the motion, and there are mirrors. On a car like the Great White Train, a full-length mirror was set at each end of every car, and the private cars use the same trick, because a mirror at the end of a long narrow room does something magical. It doubles the light, catching every lamp and giving it back, and it doubles the length, so that the car seems to run on and on, warm and bright, further than it possibly could. Stand at one end of our car tonight and look down its length, and you will see the lamps repeated, the wood repeated, the flowers repeated, a warm bright room stretching away into a soft golden distance that is really only a sheet of silvered glass. There is a smell to all this wood, and it is one of the good smells of the night. Oiled mahogany has a scent, warm and faintly sweet, and mixed with the beeswax the porter uses to polish it, and the fresh flowers, and the first thread of coffee from the pantry, it makes the particular air of a fine car at the start of an evening. People who travelled this way remembered that smell for the rest of their lives, the way you remember the smell of a grandparent's house. It was the smell of being looked after. It got into the wood over years of polishing, and it came out again with the warmth of the lamps, so that the car seemed to breathe it gently all night long. They called these cars yachts on rails, and standing inside one you can see why. A great yacht has the same quality, the same lavishing of fine wood and fine work on a small moving space, the same cleverness of things that fold and stow and lock, the same feeling of a whole rich world made compact and set loose to travel. A yacht carries you over the water, this carries you over the land. But the feeling is the same, the feeling of a beautiful room that has slipped its moorings and gone wandering, taking you with it, keeping you snug while it goes. Every fitting is small and perfect, and made to hold still. The vase for the flowers is fixed to the wall. The lamps are weighted or bracketed so they cannot fall. The drawers have little catches so they cannot slide open with the sway. The pictures, if there are pictures, are screwed to the panelling. A private car is a room that has been taught to travel, a parlour that has learned to keep its dignity at 50 miles an hour, and the cleverness of it is that none of that cleverness ever shows. You see only a beautiful still room. You do not see the 100 small devices that keep it still. There is a lesson in the room, if you want one, though the car would never dream of teaching it. Everything you can see is made to be looked at, warm and soft and rich. And everything that does the real work, the catches and the rails and the weights and the bracing, is hidden away where you will never look. The beauty is on the surface, and the work is underneath, holding the beauty up. We will find that same shape again and again tonight, in the wood and in the people both. But now there is a sound at the far end of the car, and a change in the air. The family have come. Doors, voices, the soft business of arrival, and then the long, slow lurch as the whole train takes up its slack and begins, at last, to move. The city is about to start sliding past the black glass. Come and watch it go. There is a moment right at the start of a train journey that never loses its quiet magic, and it is happening now. The couplings all down the train take up their slack in a long soft chain of knocks, front to back, coming closer, and then our car, the last one, gives its own gentle lurch, and we are moving. Slowly at first, a walking pace, then a little faster, the platform beginning to slide away behind the rear windows. We are underway, the night has begun. The family have settled in by now, in that easy way people have who have done a thing many times. Let us give them a name too, and say they are the Aldriches, going up to Newport for the season as they do every summer. The gentleman finished with his week of business in the city, his wife glad to be leaving the heat of town, a grown daughter with them tonight. They have shed the fuss of the platform, coats are taken, the gentleman has found his chair, and already the car is doing to them what it does to everyone, beginning to loosen the shoulders and slow the breath, because a moving train is one of the oldest cradles in the world. For the first while there is still city to watch, and it is worth watching. The train works its way out through the yards, past the backs of buildings and the webs of other tracks, past signal lamps burning red and green in the dusk, over the iron bridges where the river shows below, black and gleaming, scattered with the lights of boats. Little scenes flick past the windows and are gone. A lit kitchen window, a man walking a road, a street of lamps just coming on. And then, by degrees, the city thins. The buildings grow lower and further apart. Fields open up in the last of the light. The near country begins, and the train settles into its long, steady stride. Feel what the car is doing now. This is the thing to notice. The thing we will come back to all night, so let it in properly. There is the beat of the wheels over the joints in the rail. That old, old sound. 2 beats and a pause, 2 beats and a pause, softened here inside a heavy car with its thick carpet and its padded walls until it is less a clatter than a pulse. And under the beat there is the sway, the long, slow roll of a heavy car riding good track, leaning gently one way, and then easing back, over and over, patient and even. It is the motion of a boat at anchor. It is the motion of a cradle. It is the exact motion, some say, that a mother makes without thinking when she holds a child who will not settle, and it works on grown men and women in a lit railroad car exactly as it works on the child, loosening something, letting something go. The Aldriches feel it without naming it. The gentleman's newspaper sinks a little in his hands. The daughter leans her head against the cool edge of the window and watches the last field slide by. Nobody says very much. There is not much that needs saying. The car sways, the wheels keep their beat, and the light outside goes from dusk to true dark, until at last there is no country left to see at all, only the black glass and the warm room repeated in it. And here is the quiet turn that makes a night train what it is. When the outside goes fully dark, the journey seems to stop being about the outside at all. You're no longer really crossing fields and rivers and towns, or so it feels. You're simply sitting in a warm, bright room that rocks, while somewhere beyond the black glass a country you cannot see pours past at 40 miles an hour. The distance becomes a rumour. The world shrinks to the length of the car and the people in it, and the pool of lamplight on the table. Everything else is out there in the dark, being crossed on your behalf, without your having to look at it or think about it or do anything about it at all. The daughter has stopped watching the window now. There is nothing to watch. She has let her head rest against the cool wood by the glass, and her eyes have gone soft and half closed, and she is doing what all of us do on a night train sooner or later, letting the sway take her. You can see it happen to a person. The chin lowers, the hands go still in the lap, the breath lengthens, the car leans one way and eases back, leans and eases, and each slow roll seems to smooth something, to take a little more of the day away, until the person is not quite asleep and not quite awake, but somewhere in between, carried, at rest. If you're feeling that yourself now, lying wherever you are, that is exactly right. That is the car doing to you what it did to her 130 years ago on a summer night between the city and the sea. That is a rare feeling, and a deeply restful one, and the rich of this age paid a great deal of money to have it. They could have arrived faster by other means in other years. Speed was never quite the point. The point was this: to turn the hard fact of distance, 3 whole states of dark country between the city and the sea, into one small, still, warm room that a family could sit inside and simply be carried through. The private car took the violence out of travel. It took the miles and folded them up small and put them outside the glass where no one had to feel them. The steward passes down the car now, quiet as ever, and murmurs that dinner will be ready soon. And indeed, if you turn your face toward the far end of the car, you can catch it, the first warm thread of it on the air, coming forward from the little kitchen where one man has been at work over his range while all of this began. Before we sit down to eat, come and see him, because what he does in that tiny hot room is one of the small wonders of the night. At the far end of the car, behind a plain door that the family will never open, there is a room that could not be more different from the parlour we have been sitting in, and yet it is the room that makes the parlour possible. It is the kitchen. And the first thing to say about it is how small it is. On the finest private cars of these years, the kitchen was tiny, something on the order of 7 feet by 12. Say that slowly and picture it. 7 feet one way, 12 feet the other. A space smaller than many a modern bathroom. And in that space, one man, alone, cooked the sort of dinner you would expect in a good hotel. Several courses of it, hot and correct and on time, night after night, while the floor beneath him rolled and swayed, and the whole room leaned first one way and then the other. When you next feel put upon in a large still kitchen on solid ground, think of Henry and his 7 feet by 12, and be gentle with yourself. Let us call him Henry, this cook, and let us stand in the doorway a moment and watch, because it is a thing worth seeing. The range is coal or oil fired, small and hot, and the heat of it fills the little room so that Henry works with his sleeves rolled and his face shining. Every surface around him is crowded, and every crowded thing is held in place. The pots have rails to keep them on the stove when the car leans. The knives live in a slotted block. The plates are stacked in fitted racks with pegs between them so they cannot slide. There are hooks and straps and little fences on every shelf, because in a kitchen that moves, anything not held down is sooner or later on the floor, and Henry long ago learned to trust nothing to simply sit where he put it. He can cross the room in 2 steps, and so he does not really walk in it at all. He pivots, he reaches. He has arranged the whole tiny space around the reach of his own 2 arms, so that the salt is here and the pan is there and the plates are behind him, all within a turn, all in the same places they have been on every run he has ever made. He cooks the way a man plays an instrument he has played for 20 years, without looking, his hands knowing the way before his eyes do. And all the while the car sways, and Henry sways with it, his knees soft, his weight shifting, so easy and so constant that he no longer feels it, the way a sailor no longer feels the sea. Think about what he is making. A dinner of many courses to be served in the parlour as though it came from the kitchen of a mansion. Soup to begin, then a fish course, then an entree, something made and sauced, then a roast with its vegetables, then a salad, then a dessert, and coffee to finish, black and hot. Each course cooked to order, in its turn, so that it reaches the table at its proper moment and its proper heat, all of it out of one small range in one small room by one pair of hands. In a great house on Fifth Avenue this dinner would have a chef and undercooks and kitchen maids and scullery girls, a whole cellar full of people. Here it has Henry, and Henry alone, and the dinner is no less fine for it. All of this came out of a space he had provisioned that afternoon and packed as tight as a ship's stores. The ice in the chest to keep the fish and the meat and the butter cold, the vegetables in their bins, the bread wrapped in cloth, the little pots of cream, the eggs bedded in straw, the fruit for the dessert. A cook on a car like this had to think ahead the way a captain thinks ahead, because there was no going out for a thing he had forgotten. Whatever he would need between the city and the coast had to be aboard before the wheels turned, stowed in its place, held against the sway. And so Henry's afternoon, like the stewards and the porters, was a long, quiet labour of readiness, so that his night could be only the cooking. Feel the strangeness of it for a moment, the hot little room inside the cold running night. Beyond the thin wall at Henry's back the summer dark is pouring past at 40 miles an hour, the fields and the woods and the sleeping farms cool and damp and enormous. And here, a few inches away, is a box of fire and light, and the smell of a roast, one small stubborn pocket of warmth being carried through all that darkness. That is the whole car in miniature, really. A warm, bright inside, a vast, dark outside, and skilled hands keeping the one against the other. Henry keeps it at the stove, James keeps it at the lamps, Mr. Cole keeps it at the table, and the family and you are kept. There is a real and quiet heroism in this, though Henry would laugh at the word. He is not thinking about heroism. He's thinking about the fish, and whether the roast is coming along, and whether the water in the pan will slop when the car takes the long curve he can feel coming up under his feet. The skill of him is so complete that it has become invisible even to him. That is what mastery looks like from the outside. It looks like ease. It looks like a man cooking a fine dinner in a rolling box the size of a garden shed, and finding nothing remarkable in it at all, and the family will never see him. This is the way of it. All night, in every part of the car. The dinner will arrive, perfect and hot, carried up by the steward, and the Aldriches will eat it and enjoy it, and think no more about where it came from than you think about the kitchen when you eat in a restaurant. The heat and the smallness and the swaying and the 20 years of skill are all folded away behind that plain door, out of sight, holding up the beauty of the evening the way the hidden catches and rails hold up the stillness of the room. Warm your hands a moment at Henry's door before we go. The little room is the hot heart of the car tonight, the one place with a real fire, and everything good that is about to happen at the table begins here, in these 7 feet by 12, with one man and a range and a great deal of quiet skill. Now the first course is nearly ready. The steward is laying the cloth. Let us go back up the car and watch a table set for dinner in a room that will not hold still, because that is a small art all its own. Once the city is well behind and the car has found its steady stride, the steward lays the table for dinner, and it is a small, quiet art worth watching, because a table set in a room that will not hold still is a different thing from a table set on solid ground. Mr. Cole begins with the cloth. He shakes it out and lets it settle, white and heavy and starched, and smooths it flat across the fixed table with the flat of his hand. The linen of a car like this was fine, the same grade you would find in a good hotel or a great house, and there was a great deal of it. Spare cloths and napkins and covers folded away in the pantry drawers, because linen must be changed, and there is no laundry between the city and the sea. He squares the cloth, and the first white brightness of it lifts the whole end of the car, the way a laid table always does, turning a corner of a room into an occasion. Then the setting, piece by piece, each thing brought from its fitted home in the pantry, and placed with a small sureness against the sway. The plates first, the china for the first course, warmed. Then the flatware, the plate silver, laid out in its order from the outside in, a fork and a knife and a spoon for each thing that is coming, so that a diner has only to work inward through the meal and never think about which to reach for. Then the glasses, and here is where the care shows most, because glass is the enemy of a moving room. A water glass, a glass for each wine, a tall thin glass for champagne, all of them cut crystal, all of them able to chime or tip or slide. Mr. Cole sets each one just so, a little back from the edge, where the lean of the car will trouble it least, so that the foot of the glass sits steady on the cloth and cannot wander. He works with a cloth over his arm, and a way of moving that has the sway built into it. He does not fight the lean of the car. He goes with it, setting a glass down in the pause at the top of a roll, letting his knees take the motion, so that his hands stay level while everything beneath them tilts. Watch him a while, and you stop seeing a man setting a table and start seeing something more like a dance, a slow one, with a partner you cannot see, the long roll of the car that he has danced with so many times he no longer has to count the steps. There are the small touches too, the ones nobody asks for and everybody feels. The flowers move from their fixed vase on the wall to a low-weighted bowl in the centre of the cloth, where they will not block a face across the table. The candle in its holder lit now, its small flame leaning and writing with the car, throwing a soft moving light that the electric age would never quite match. The salt and the pepper in little silver dishes with little silver spoons. A folded menu, perhaps, in the steward's own careful hand, naming the courses that are coming up from Henry's kitchen. Each thing is small. Together they say the same thing the whole car says, that someone has thought of you and gone to trouble for you and wants your evening to be lovely. Look closely at the silver as he lays it, because each piece has a life behind it. The plate silver of a car like this was heavy and fine, and it was polished by hand over and over, year after year, until the soft cloth had worn a warm, dull shine into it, the shine that only comes to silver that has been cared for a long time. A single knife might have been polished 1,000 nights before this one. It will be polished 1,000 nights after. It will very likely outlive everyone at the table, and the car and the railroad itself, and turn up 100 years on in a case somewhere, still catching the light. The things on this cloth are older and more permanent than the evening they serve, and there is a quiet comfort in that, if you let it in. The steward does not serve alone. On a full car there was a second man, a waiter, younger, who carried and cleared and fetched while the steward poured and presided. The two of them moving up and down the narrow car in a practised weave that never tangled. One goes up with the full plates as the other comes down with the empties, passing in the aisle with the small sidestep the sway has taught them both, and between them the table is always tended and never crowded, dishes appearing and vanishing as if the car itself were quietly feeding its guests. It is a kind of choreography, worked out over many runs, invisible to the people it serves, who see only that the next thing they want is always, somehow, already there. Think for a moment about the sheer improbability of it. Beyond the black glass, the night country is rushing past at 40 miles an hour, unlit, enormous, indifferent. And here, a few feet inside the glass, is a table laid with white linen and cut crystal and silver and flowers, and a leaning candle flame, as fine as any table in any dining room in the city, riding through all that darkened speed as steady as a rock. That is the whole trick of the private car, made visible in one laid table. The world outside is many tons of iron at speed through the dark. The world inside is a candle that does not blow out, and it holds. That is the quiet marvel of it. Through all the hours of dinner, as the car sways and leans and takes its curves, the glasses will not chime, and the candle will not gutter, and the flowers will not slide, because every one of them has been placed by a man who knows exactly how much the car will move and has allowed for all of it in advance. The stillness of the table is not luck. It is skill, the same hidden skill we found in the wood and the kitchen, the work underneath holding the beauty up. Mr. Cole steps back and looks at his table, once, the way any craftsman looks at a finished thing. Then he goes to tell the family that dinner is served, and to carry up the first course from the kitchen, where Henry has been waiting for this word. The lamps are warm, the cloth is white, the candle leans and rights itself, and the black windows hold it all doubled in the glass. Come and sit down with the Aldriches now, because the first course is coming up the car, and there is nothing lovelier on a night like this than a long, slow dinner in a moving room. The first course comes up the car in the steward's steady hands, and dinner begins. And now we settle into the long, warm centre of the early night, the part that no clock seems to touch, the hours of the meal. It begins with soup. It nearly always did. A soup to open, brought up hot from Henry's range in a covered dish and ladled out at the table, and the family take up their spoons, and the evening tips over gently into its true self. There is something about a soup at the start of a dinner on a moving train. The warmth of it, the small, careful business of a spoon and a bowl in a swaying room that settles everyone. Shoulders come down, voices soften. The day in the city, the heat and the business and the crowded platform, all of it begins to feel like a thing that happened to someone else, a long time ago, somewhere that is now far behind in the dark. After the soup, the fish. A fine private car dinner moved through its courses the way a great house dinner did, one thing at a time. Unhurried, each brought up fresh from the kitchen when the last was cleared. Fish after the soup, delicate, sauced, gone. Then an entree, something made and dressed, a dish with a little art to it. Then the roast, the heart of the meal, meat with its vegetables carved and served. Then a salad, cool and green to clear the palate. Then a dessert, sweet, perhaps a fruit, perhaps a pudding, perhaps an ice if Henry had the makings, and at the last coffee, black and hot, and something small and sweet beside it, and maybe a glass of something older and darker for the gentleman. Course after course, all of it out of that little room 7 feet by 12, all of it arriving at the table exactly when it should, warm and correct, as though a whole kitchen brigade stood behind that plain door instead of one man in his shirt sleeves. And the wine moved with the food, as it was meant to. A wine for the fish, poured pale and cool. A wine for the roast, poured deeper and warmer. The steward poured against the sway, tilting the bottle in the pause of the roll, filling each glass a careful 2/3 so the wine had room to move without spilling, and then setting the bottle back in its cradle in the sideboard. The family drank slowly, the way you drink on a long evening with nowhere to be, and the wine did its own gentle work on top of the work the car was already doing, loosening, warming, slowing the night down further still. Watch the roast come up, because it is the small ceremony at the centre of the meal. It arrives whole or half carved from Henry's kitchen, and the steward finishes it at a side table, the knife going through in even slices, the juices gathering, the plates warmed to receive it. Meat was the heart of a grand dinner in that age, and a roast well cooked and well carved was a thing to take pride in, and the family would know good work when they saw it. What it cost to set such a table, night after night, for a family of 3 or 4, would have kept a working household for a week, but the money is not spoken of here, and there is no need to dwell on it either, except to feel, gently, the sheer abundance of it. A full dinner of many courses with its wines, laid on inside a moving car for the pleasure of one evening between 2 cities. And hold on to the number at the middle of it all, because it is the quiet marvel of the meal. One cook, say it again, sitting there over your own drifting thoughts. All of this, the soup and the fish, and the entree, and the roast, and the salad, and the dessert, and the coffee, every course of it correct and hot and in its turn, came out of one small room by one pair of hands. In a great house it would have taken a dozen people. Here it takes one, and you would never know it to taste it. There is no indignation in that thought, only wonder, the same wonder you might feel watching any master at the very top of a craft, doing alone and with ease what should by rights take a crowd. Listen to the sounds of a dinner like this, because they are some of the warmest sounds the night has to offer. The small clink of silver on china, the low pour of the wine, the candle flame's faint hiss, the steward's quiet step coming and going, and under all of it, always, the 2 beats and the pause of the wheels and the long roll of the car, so that the whole dinner seems to happen inside a larger, slower rhythm, rocked, carried, held. If you have ever eaten well and late on a moving train, or even on a boat, you know this feeling, the way the meal and the motion braid together until you can hardly tell the pleasure of the one from the pleasure of the other. Nobody's in a hurry. That is the great luxury of the evening, greater even than the silver and the wine. There is nowhere to be until morning, and morning will bring itself, without anyone having to do a thing. The train will run through the night whether the family sit long over their coffee or not. The miles will be crossed either way, out there in the dark by the fire far ahead and the wheels below. And so the dinner can take as long as it likes, and it does, stretching out course by course into the early night, each dish arriving in its own good time, the wine going down, the candle burning lower, the black windows holding the warm scene doubled and still. The steward clears each course and brings the next, and between them he is nearly invisible, which is the whole of his art. He is there when a glass needs filling and gone when it does not. He anticipates the way the truly good ones do, so that the thing you are about to want is already at your elbow. And all the while, at the far end of the car, Henry works his range, sending up one perfect course after another, the 2 of them, steward and cook, running the whole dinner between them like a pair of hands that have worked together so long they no longer need to speak. The coffee comes at last, and the family sit back. The meal is done, but the evening is not, and this is one of the sweetest hours of all. The sitting after dinner, warm and fed and unhurried, in a bright room that rocks through the dark. The plates are cleared, the candle is low, the talk grows soft and slow. Stay here with them a while, because there is a particular kind of comfort in the murmur of people you love talking quietly nearby, a comfort that has nothing to do with the words, and that is where we are going next. After the coffee, before anyone thinks of bed, there is an hour of simply sitting, and it is made almost entirely of the sound of voices. Not the words, the sound. And that sound, the low, easy murmur of people talking quietly near you in a warm room, is one of the oldest comforts there is, and one of the best for carrying a tired mind towards sleep. The Aldrishes are talking the way a family talks after a good dinner, without effort, without point. A little about the season ahead, who's at Newport already, whose cottage is opened, what is planned. A little about the week in the city just finished. A little about nothing at all, the small worn coins of family talk, passed back and forth without anyone quite listening, because the listening is not the point. The point is the being together, the low music of familiar voices in a small bright room, going on and on while the dark country slides by outside. The daughter has gone quiet. She's had her dinner and her half glass of wine, and the long day and the warm car and the steady sway have caught up with her, and now she sits with her cheek against her hand and her eyes half closed, not asleep, not awake, just letting the voices wash over her. This is the state the whole car is drifting toward, and she has reached it first, the way the young often do. She hears her mother's voice, and her father's voice as sounds she has known all her life, rising and falling, and she does not need to follow them, and she does not try. She simply floats on them. If you are drifting yourself now, let the Aldrich's voices be that for you too, a murmur you do not have to follow, a sound to float on, going on gently in the next room while you let go. Listen to the small shape of their talk, because it is the gentle music of the season beginning. Whose cottage is open this year, and whose is shut? Who has come up already and who is still in the city? The plans for the weeks ahead, a dinner here, the yachting there, a ball someone is giving that everyone will go to. None of it matters to us, and almost none of it matters much to them, and that is exactly the point. It is the easy talk of people with a long, pleasant summer in front of them, and nothing pressing to decide tonight. It rises and falls, warm and idle, a mother and a father turning over the small pleasures of the season while the car carries them toward it through the dark. And the daughter floats on it, further out every minute. Her mother's voice, low and familiar. Her father's answer, lower still. The soft clink as the steward clears the last of the coffee. The 2 beats and the pause of the wheels under everything, keeping time. She could not tell you, if you asked her in the morning, a single thing that was said in this hour, and that is not a loss, it is the whole gift of it. She was not there to remember. She was there to be carried, safe in the sound of her people talking quietly nearby. While the night ran past outside, and the car held warm around them all, let yourself be as she is now. You do not have to keep any of it. The talk goes on either way. There is a reason this particular sound soothes us so deeply, and it is very old. To hear voices talking low and easy nearby is to know, in the oldest part of the mind, that all is well. Danger is quiet or it is loud, but it is never a relaxed murmur. When the people around you are talking softly, unhurried, about small things, the body understands that it is safe, that it may stand down, that someone else is awake and at ease and keeping the world running for now. A child knows this, falling asleep to the sound of the grown people talking in the next room. Something in us never forgets it. And a night like this gives it back to us, the sound of easy voices in the warm dark telling the oldest good news there is, that all is well, that you may sleep. The steward moves through it all, clearing the last of the dinner, and even his work is quiet. The soft chime of silver gathered up, the whisper of the cloth folded, the small sounds of a room being gently put to rights. He carries the dishes back to the pantry, where he will wash them and stow them in their fitted places, so that by morning there will be no trace of the dinner at all, only a clean car ready for the day. It is the same pattern once more. The evening is enjoyed at the table and cleared away out of sight, so that the family never see the used plates or the washing up, never see anything but the pleasant part, the eating and the sitting and the talk. Outside the night has deepened. Whatever towns the train passes now show only as a brief wash of lights across the black glass and then gone. A station's lamps, a street, a lit window in a farmhouse where someone else is awake. The car runs on through all of it, warm and bright and full of soft voices, a small lit world crossing a large dark one. The sway has not changed. The wheels keep their 2 beats and their pause, and the family talk on, lower now, slower, the gaps between the words growing longer, the evening beginning, without anyone deciding it, to wind down toward the night. Presently the gentleman stirs and reaches for a cigar, and that is the small signal that the after-dinner hour is turning. The men will move to the smoking end of the car, and the women to the sofa and the soft lamp, and the evening will divide itself gently in two the way evenings did in that age. Come with the gentleman a moment, into the blue, smoke and the low talk at the end of the car, because there is a particular late quiet there that is worth feeling before we start, all of us, to think of bed. At the smoking end of the car, the evening grows quieter still. This is the hour of the cigar and the low voice and the long comfortable silence, and it has a stillness all its own, a settling toward the night that you can almost feel in the air. Mr. Aldrich, the gentleman of the family, takes his cigar and lights it with the small ceremony such things had, the careful toasting of the end, the first slow draw, the first blue plume of smoke rising into the lamplight. Cigar smoke in a lit car at night is a beautiful thing to watch, if you do not have to breathe too much of it, curling and drifting in slow blue coils through the golden light, catching the glow of the lamps, gathering in a soft haze up near the pale ceiling. It has its own smell, warm and dark and a little sweet, that mixes with the mahogany and the coffee and becomes part of the deep, late air of the car. There may be another man aboard, a friend, a business connection, a brother, and if so, the two of them sit at the end of the car with their cigars and their small glasses of something amber, and they talk the low, unhurried talk of men at the end of a long day. Or Mr. Aldrich sits alone, which is its own pleasure, a man with a good cigar and a comfortable chair and nowhere at all he needs to be, watching the smoke rise and the dark slide by. There are cards, perhaps, laid out on a small fixed table, a quiet game played more for the handling of the cards than for any stake. There is a newspaper, read and set down and picked up again. There is, mostly an easing, a letting go of the week. The business of the city finally set aside somewhere back down the dark track behind them. The amber in the small glass is something old and slow, a brandy perhaps, warmed a little by the hand that holds it, sipped rather than drunk. It goes with the cigar and the hour, a last small pleasure at the close of the day taken without haste. There is no next thing to get to. There is only this, the smoke rising, the glass warming, the dark sliding by, and a man letting the week finally fall away from him a mile at a time. If there is talk, it is the low sort that leaves long gaps, a remark, a pause, an answer, 3 breaths later, the talk of men who are comfortable enough together to say nothing for a while. And if there is no talk, the silence is just as good, the companionable quiet of the end of an evening, with the wheels keeping their patient time beneath. At the other end of the car, the women have the sofa and the soft rose lamp. The daughter is nearly gone now, curled into a corner of the sofa, and her mother sits near her with some small quiet thing to do. A book she's not really reading, a piece of needlework she takes up and sets down. The soft-coloured lamp throws its warm blush over them both, and the black window beside them holds their reflection. 2 women at rest in a pool of rosy light, riding through the night. It is a picture of deep peace, and it will dissolve soon, when they too rise and go to their beds. But for now it holds, warm and still, at the far end of the car from the blue smoke. Between the 2 ends moves James, the porter, quiet as always, and now his work begins to turn toward the night. While the family have their last easy hour, he is slipping away, 1 stateroom at a time, to make ready the beds. We will follow him there soon, because his night is the true night of this car, the one that goes on after all the others end. For now, notice only that he has begun, that even as the family sit and smoke and drift, the man who keeps them is already turning down their sheets, already going ahead of them into the night the way he went ahead of them into the dusk with his lamps, so that when at last they rise to go to bed, the bed will be ready, turned down, waiting, and they will never have seen it done. The end of the car where the men sit has its own small furnishings for exactly this hour, and they are worth a glance. A little card table that folds down from the wall and locks level against the sway, a decanter of something dark in a fitted stand, and heavy short glasses beside it in a felt-lined rack so they cannot chime, a box of cigars and the small silver tools that went with them, the cutter, the match stand, a deep leather chair or 2 worn soft by many such evenings. It is a corner made for the slow late end of a day, dim and quiet and a little clubby, and it has held 1,000 such nights, 1,000 last cigars and last easy hands of cards and long comfortable silences, all of it riding through the dark between one city and another. Tonight it holds one more. The smoke rises, the dark slides by. The hour grows late, and the man in the deep chair feels the whole week finally loosen its grip and let him go. The whole car is slowing now. You can feel it, the way you can feel a house get ready for sleep. The talk is fewer words and longer silences. The cigar burns down. The cards are gathered and set aside. The lamp at the women's end seems to glow a little softer. Even the sway feels slower, though of course it is not. The car rolls on at the same steady pace it has kept all evening, but the mind, drifting towards sleep, feels everything grow gentler, wider, further apart. This is the tide going out. The evening is ending, not with any event, but simply by winding down quietly, the way the best evenings do. Before he goes to his bed, Mr. Aldrich does a thing that many a man did on a car like this. He rises and steps to the very back of the car and opens the door onto the little open platform at the rear to finish his cigar in the night air and take a last look at the dark before he sleeps. Come out there with him, into the cool and the sound and the rushing dark, because the view from the back of a private car at night is one of the strange quiet wonders of this whole journey, and it is the last thing the gentleman will see before he lets the day go. Open the door at the very back of the car and step out onto the little platform, and the night comes up around you all at once. The warmth and the light are behind you now, at your back through the glass. Out here there is the cool rushing air and the enormous dark and the sound. The private car rode at the tail of the train, and so at its rear there was a small open porch, a platform with a railing, the family's own little veranda over the receding track. It was a place to sit on a warm day and watch the country unwind behind. At night it becomes something else, quieter and stranger, a place to stand at the very back of the moving world and watch it pour away from you into the dark. Mr. Aldrich stands at the railing with the last of his cigar and looks back the way the train has come. Below him, the two rails run out from under the car and away, gleaming faintly in what little light there is, two bright lines drawing together as they go until they meet in the blackness far behind. The cross ties blur beneath, the cinders fly, and the dark country unrolls backward and away, the shapes of trees, the loom of a hill, a fence running along beside the track for a moment and then gone. Now and then the lights of a town swing into view behind, a scatter of lamps, a lit street, a station sliding away, and he watches them shrink and gather and wink out one by one as the distance eats them, until the dark closes over the place where they were, and there is only the night again, and the two rails running out of it. There is a feeling to this that is hard to name and easy to sink into. It is the feeling of being carried away. Everything out here is going, streaming backward, falling behind, the towns, the miles, the whole day, all of it running away down the track into the dark while you stand still and simply watch it go. You are not chasing anything. You are not going toward, not out here. Out here you are only leaving gently, steadily, mile after mile, the city and its week and its cares all unspooling behind you into a darkness that swallows them clean. Whatever weighed on you at the start of the evening is back there somewhere now, small and getting smaller, and soon it will wink out like the lights of the town and be gone. Think of where the rails are carrying him while he stands here. Somewhere ahead in the dark the land begins to run down toward the water, toward the great bay and the sounds and the island where Newport waits. He cannot see any of it yet. It is hours off, but the country is already changing under the wheels, the inland fields giving way, by slow degrees, to a coast, and a man who has made this run summer after summer can feel the change coming the way you feel a room change before someone opens a window. The whole journey has a shape to it, a long reach inland turning at last toward the sea, and he is riding the bend of it now in the dark with a cigar, watching the day fall away behind. The air is cooler than it was an hour ago, and there is a new thing in it, faint but unmistakable if you know it, a freshness, a hint of salt and water somewhere ahead in the dark. The run is bending toward the coast. The sea is out there, a long way off yet, but the night air has begun to carry the first thin word of it, and a man who has made this journey many times lifts his head and knows, without seeing anything, that the land is changing, that the country is running down toward the bays and the sounds and the island where the season waits. Overhead, if the night is clear, the stars are out in a way the city never shows them, thick and bright and slowly wheeling as the car runs on beneath. Out here on the open platform away from the lamps, the eye adjusts and the whole great dome of the summer sky comes clear, more stars than a man remembers there being, spilled from one dark horizon to the other. A person standing at the rail feels for a moment the true size of the night he's being carried through. The vast dark country below, and the vast dark sky above, and himself, a single small warm point of life moving between them on two thin lines of steel. It might be a lonely feeling, in another mood. Tonight it is the very opposite. To feel the hugeness of the night, and to know at the same time that you're held safe inside a warm bright room in the middle of it, carried surely on toward the morning, is one of the deepest comforts that travel has ever offered. The small, snug shelter set against the enormous dark, and all the sweeter for the contrast. He finishes the cigar and flicks the last of it away, a small red spark that arcs out into the dark and is gone. He stands a moment longer at the railing, letting the night and the sound and the rushing dark have him, the way you do at the end of a long day when sleep is close and you want to feel the size of the world once before you shut it out. The wheels beat below. The car sways under his feet, the same long roll, out here made a little wilder by the open air and the sense of speed, and the rails run out and away behind him into a dark that has no bottom, carrying the day off, carrying it all off, gently into the night. Then he turns and goes back in, and the warmth and the light take him again, and the door closes on the rushing dark, and the sound of it drops away to the soft beat it has been all along. The night air is shut outside where it belongs. Inside the lamps are warm and the beds are turned down, and the family are ready now to let the day go entirely. It is time to go to bed on a moving train, which is one of the great small pleasures a life can hold. Come, and let us watch the car settle, room by room, into the night. While the family lingered over their coffee and their cigars, something quiet and important was happening at the other end of the car. Behind the closed doors of the staterooms, the beds were being made, and the making of a bed in a moving railroad car in the dark of a summer night is one of the small skilled labours that held this whole world together. A private car did not put its family to sleep in fold-down berths behind a curtain, the way the public sleeping cars did. It had real staterooms, small private bedrooms with real beds, doors that closed, a little washstand, a mirror, a place for clothes. The car we found in the record, J. Gould's Atalanta, had 4 of them. Ours has its own, opening off the narrow panelled corridor that runs down one side of the car, each one a small perfect cabin of mahogany and soft light, each one waiting now to be turned down for the night. James goes from room to room and makes them ready. He has done this so many times that his hands need no thought. He smooths the bottom sheet and squares it. He turns down the top sheet and the light summer blanket in a clean, neat fold, the way a good house turns down a bed so that the guest has only to slip in. He plumps the pillow and sets it just so. He fills the water carafe on the little stand and sets a clean glass beside it. He lays out what needs laying out, turns the small lamp down to a low, warm glow, and leaves each room ready, hushed, and waiting. A little pool of order and calm made in advance against the moment its owner will stumble in, heavy with sleep and need nothing but to lie down. To make a bed well is not hard on solid ground. To make it well in a car that leans and rolls, in the close air of a tiny cabin, by the light of one low lamp, is another thing. The sheets want to slide, the blanket wants to bunch. The whole small room tilts one way and then the other while you work. so that a man bending over a bed must brace and sway and time his movements to the roll, tucking in the low side, reaching across in the pause at the top of the lean. James does it without a wasted motion. He has the sea legs of a man who has spent 1,000 nights on moving floors, and the bed he leaves behind is as smooth and square and inviting as any bed made in any still room anywhere. Look around one of these little rooms before its owner comes, because a stateroom on a fine car was a small marvel of snugness. It is not large. You could nearly touch both walls with your arms out, but every inch of it has been thought about and made to serve. There is the bed built in along one wall. There is a little washstand with a bowl and a jug and a mirror, folded cleverly into the panelling. There are hooks for clothes, a shelf with a rail, a small window with its own curtain to draw against the night. The walls are the same warm mahogany as the rest of the car, and the whole room, small and close and finished, has the feeling of a berth on a fine yacht, or a nest, or the cabin of a treehouse a child might dream of. A tiny, perfect world just big enough for one sleeper and nothing more. It is the kind of small space that does not feel cramped but held. The walls close around you like cupped hands, and the bed in it will rock all night. That is the thing the family are about to discover again, as they do every summer, the particular deep sleep of a bed that moves. The whole car sways, and so the bed sways with it. The same long, slow roll, side to side, over and over, patient and even, exactly the motion you would make to soothe a child you are holding. A grown man lies down in that bed tired from his week, and the rocking takes him the same way it takes an infant down and down, past thinking, into a sleep deeper than he gets in his own still bed at home. There is a reason people have always slept well on trains and on ships. The body was built at the very start of life to be rocked to sleep, and it never forgets. There is a great tenderness in a turned-down bed if you have ever arrived somewhere late and tired and found one waiting. It says, someone knew you were coming. Someone thought of your rest before you did. Someone made this ready so that at the end of your long day there would be nothing left to do but let go. That is what James is making, room by room, all down the car, not just beds but small acts of care, laid up in advance for people who will never see them made, and will feel them only as ease, as softness, as the bliss of a ready bed on a night when you can barely keep your eyes open. And it is the deepest form of the pattern we keep finding tonight. Everything hard is done ahead of time, in private, out of sight, so that the family meet only the soft result. The dinner is cooked behind a closed door and arrives perfect. The car is lit before they notice the dark, and the beds are made while they laugh over coffee, so that the night, when it comes for them, comes as pure comfort, with all its labour already finished and folded away. They will open a door onto a ready room, and never think to ask who readied it, and that lack of thought is itself the finest thing James makes, finer than the square corners, the gift of a comfort so complete you do not even see it as a gift. He finishes the last room and stands a moment in the low light, checking it with his eyes the way a careful man does. The bed, the water, the lamp, the small things in their places. Then he steps back into the corridor and pulls the door softly to, and the room waits there in the dark behind it, made still, ready, holding its little pool of calm until its owner comes. But before the family come to their beds, there is one more piece of the porter's night to see. A small strange ritual that says more about this whole vanished world than almost anything else aboard. It happens in the corridor, at the closed doors, in the dead of the night. It is the shoes. Come and see what James does with the shoes, because it is where the tenderness and the hardness of his work meet, and both are worth knowing. Here is a small thing that happened every night on cars and trains like this one, so ordinary at the time that no one thought to remark on it, and so strange to us now that it is worth stopping over. When the family went to bed, they set their shoes outside their stateroom doors, out in the narrow corridor, and in the night, while they slept, those shoes were taken up, cleaned, polished to a deep mirror shine, and set back exactly where they had been, so that in the morning each pair waited outside each door, gleaming, as if the night had simply made them new. The man who did this was James, of course, in the small hours, when the rest of his work was done and the car was quiet. He would come softly down the corridor and gather the shoes, and carry them back to his little place at the end of the car, and there, by the light of the one low lamp, he would clean and black and buff each pair, working the polish in, bringing up the shine, until a scuffed and dusty shoe from a day in the city became a shoe fit for a gentleman to step down onto a Newport platform in the morning. Then he would carry them back and set them down without a sound, and no one would ever see it done. The men who kept the sleeping cars of America in these years were, in great number, black men, many of them born into slavery and freed by the war, who took up this work in the decades after and made of it one of the great service corps of the nation. They were the presence of the night on a train, the ones who made the beds and carried the bags and shined the shoes and brought the water and answered every bell, and they did it with a skill and a bearing that became famous. On the public cars, one porter might tend a whole car full of sleepers alone through the entire night, and the work was long past anything we would ask of a person now. A porter might be on duty as much as 20 hours at a stretch. He came aboard hours before the passengers to ready the car, and those hours were not always paid. And on an overnight run he might get 3 or 4 hours of sleep, snatched in his clothes, in a narrow berth at the end of the car, ready to rise at the first ring of a bell. Picture him as he did this work, because the picture matters. He wore a uniform and wore it well, everything clean and correct, even in the small hours, even when no one was awake to see. The bearing of these men was famous, an upright, unhurried, courteous way of moving through a car that could make a plain railroad carriage feel like a fine hotel. He knew the whole geography of the night by feel, which rail joints were rough and which were smooth, which curve was coming, how the car would lean and when. And he answered bells. Each stateroom had its bell, a button by the bed, and a bell would ring softly at his end of the car with a little indicator showing which room had called, and he would rise from whatever rest he had and go, at once, quiet and ready, to bring the water or the blanket or whatever a half-asleep traveller needed in the dark. All night he lived at the end of that bell on call, listening even in his sleep. Hold that gently, the way this channel holds all its hard truths, slowly, and without turning it into a wound. The work was hard, and the hours were long, and the pay leaned heavily on the tips a traveller might or might not leave. All of that is true, and it belongs in the story, because the comfort of the family rested on it. And it is also true that the work was skilled, and carried real dignity, and that many a man made a long life and a proud one on it, raised his children on it, stood straight in a fine uniform, and did difficult work supremely well night after night. Both of those things are true at once, and we let them both be true, the hardness and the pride, without forcing them to cancel. There is one small detail from the record that says more than a page of explanation could. Travellers, in those years, so often called every porter by the same single name, George, as though the men were all one man and none had a name of his own, that it became a known and weary joke among the porters themselves. One of them, a man named Frank Rollins, gave the gentlest possible answer to it. "Just do not call me boy," he said, "and do not call me George. That is all." A quiet request to be seen as himself. It would be many years yet, well into the next century, before the companies finally put cards in the cars showing each porter's true name, so that a passenger might, if he chose, call the man by who he actually was. We do not know the name of the man who shined the shoes on our car tonight, and so we have called him James, and let him stand for all of them, the thousands who kept the night on the rails of America. But let us at least here in the dark do the small thing Frank Rollins asked. Let us see him, not a fixture of the car like the lamps or the wood, a man with a name of his own and a family somewhere and a long practiced skill, sitting up in the small hours by a low light, bringing a shine up on another man's shoes so that a stranger can step down clean in the morning. There is no bitterness in the picture. There is only a man doing careful work in the quiet, and the least we can do, riding warm through the night on the strength of it, is know that he is there. He sets the last pair back outside the last door, gleaming, silent, and straightens, and the corridor is still again, lined with shoes that shine faintly in the dark. Now, the family are coming to their beds at last. Listen, and you will hear it begin, the soft sounds of a household going to sleep, one door at a time, all down the swaying car. Now comes the gentlest movement of the whole evening, the going to bed, and it happens the way it happens in any house at the end of a good day, one person at a time, softly, with small good nights, until the whole place has folded itself down into sleep. The daughter goes first. She's been more than half gone for an hour, curled in her corner of the sofa, and now her mother wakes her with a hand on her shoulder and a word, and she rises, blinking, warm and heavy and only just awake, and makes her way down the swaying corridor to her little room. She has walked this moving floor since she was small, and her feet know it, riding the roll without her having to think. At her door she pauses, says a soft good night back down the car and goes in, and the door closes behind her with a small clean sound. One room along the corridor has its sleeper now. The low lamp inside it glows behind the door. Then, after a while, the mother. She sets aside the book she was not reading and the needlework she barely touched, and she rises too and moves down the car, pausing to say good night to her husband at the smoking end, resting a hand a moment on the back of his chair, then to her own room and in, and another door closes softly along the corridor, and another small lamp glows low behind another closed door. The car is filling, room by room, with sleeping people, each one sealed into a little cabin of warm dark, each one already letting go. The gentleman stays up a little longer, as such men often did, finishing the last inch of his cigar, the last swallow in his glass, taking the final quiet of the evening for himself. Then he too rises, and knocks out the cigar, and makes his slow way down the car, and at his door he stops a moment and looks back down its length, at the low lamps, the shut doors, the last of the light. Then he goes in, and the last of the family doors closes, and the corridor is quiet, lined with its shining shoes and its glowing thresholds, and the family, all of them, are abed. Listen to what the car sounds like now. The talk is gone. The clink of glass and silver is gone. What is left is the older, deeper sound that was under everything all along, the two beats and the pause of the wheels, the long soft roll of the car, the sigh of the steam in the pipes, the small creak of fine wood working gently against itself as the car leans and rights. These are the sounds of the car itself, its night voice, the voice it keeps when the people fall silent. And they are the best sleeping sounds in the world, steady, patient, going on and on, asking nothing, promising only that the motion will continue and the night will be crossed. There is a particular sweetness to being the last one up in a house that has gone to sleep, and the gentleman feels it now, in his slow walk down the darkened car. The others are down, safe, breathing slow behind their doors. The day's small duties are all discharged. There is nothing left that anyone needs from him, and nothing left for him to do but go to his own bed. It is a small nightly homecoming, that moment, the moment when a person who carries things all day is finally allowed to set them down, when the being responsible is over for a few hours and there is only rest ahead. He has felt it 1,000 nights, in his house in the city, in his cottage by the sea, and he feels it now in the swaying dark of the car. And it is the same everywhere. The deep ease of the last one up turning finally towards sleep. Behind each closed door a person is doing what you may be doing now, letting the day go. Shoes off, set outside. The soft business of getting ready for bed in a small rocking room. Then the cool, clean sheets, turned down and waiting, and the low lamp, and the pillow, and the long, slow sway rocking the bed like a cradle. It is very hard to stay awake in such a bed. The body has been wanting this for hours, and now it is given. The dark, the warmth, the motion, the safety, all at once. And one by one the sleepers let go and sink, down past the edge of thought, into sleep, while the car carries them on. There is a word for what the car is doing now in its quiet way. It is keeping vigil over its own sleepers. All its earlier busyness, the lighting and the dining and the serving and the talk is finished, and what is left is this steady tending, the wheels turning, the steam sighing warm through the pipes, the sway rocking every bed at once, the one low lamp burning on in the corridor. The car has become, in the dark, a kind of great cradle on wheels, rocking a whole household at the same time, and it will not stop rocking, and it will not let the warmth fail, and it will not put out that last low light all the night long. A sleeper could ask for nothing more than that, and none of these sleepers will ask for anything at all, because they are already gone, down past wanting, carried. The house is going to sleep. That is what this is, though the house is only a single car and the night outside is 3 states wide. A household settling for the night, room by room, lamp by lamp, the way households have settled since there were houses, the small good nights, the closing doors, the sinking into the dark. And the wonder of it is that this house is not still. It is running through the night at speed, crossing an unseen country, and yet inside it the oldest and most ordinary peace is being kept, people going to bed, safe, warm, and cared for, while someone else stays awake to see them through, for someone must. A house going to sleep still needs one soul awake in it, to tend the last light and mind the night and rise if anyone should stir. In this house that soul is James, and his own long watch is only now beginning. But before he takes his place by the last lamp there is the lamps themselves to see to, the putting out of the light, room by room and glow by glow, until only one is left. Come and watch it, the turning down of the lamps, because it is the very heart of this journey and the image we will carry all the way to morning. Now comes the moment the whole evening has been quietly moving toward, though no one aboard would call it a moment or think it worth a name, the putting out of the lights. And it is the softest, surest sign that a day is truly over, on a train or anywhere else, the lamps going down one by one until only a single light is left to hold the dark at bay. James goes back down the car the way he came up at dusk, only now he is undoing what he did then. At dusk he went from lamp to lamp bringing the light up against the falling night. Now he goes from lamp to lamp letting it down again, and the shadows he pushed into the corners hours ago come quietly back out and fill the car. The bright clear gas along the ceiling turned low, then off. The lamp at the dining end, where the cloth is long since cleared and folded away, out. The rose-shaded lamp at the women's end, where the sofa sits empty now, its cushions still holding the shape of the evening, turned down to nothing, out. One by one the little fires he lit against the dusk go out, and the warm, bright room we have sat in all evening dims and softens and gives itself back to the dark. It is a beautiful thing to watch, the way a room lets go of its light. Each lamp that dims takes a little more of the day with it. The gleam goes off the wood. The reflections fade in the black windows. The colours sink toward grey, and then toward nothing, and the shapes of things grow vague and kind, and the car settles deeper into its night self, the self it will keep now until the grey of morning. And with each lamp that goes, the sounds seem to grow, not louder but nearer, the wheels and the sway and the sighing steam stepping forward to fill the space the light leaves behind. But he does not put them all out. He never would. He leaves one. In the corridor, where the shut doors of the sleepers line the wall, one low lamp is left burning, turned down to a soft small glow, just enough to see by, just enough to keep the dark from being total. It is the light a house keeps on all night. The light on the landing, the light at the top of the stair, the one you leave for the child or for the last one home, or simply against the plain human need for a little light in a sleeping house. And on this car, running through the dark country toward the sea, that one low lamp is the wakeful heart of the whole journey, the single glow left awake while everything else sleeps. Look at it a moment, that one small flame turned low in the swaying corridor, and understand what it is doing. It is holding the line between the warm inside and the vast dark outside. All around it, behind the doors, the family sleep, sunk deep, gone from the world. Beyond the black windows the night pours past, the fields, the woods, the sleeping towns, the enormous unlit country. And between the two this one small steady light, burning low, tended, kept. It asks for almost nothing, a thread of gas, a low flame, and it gives the one thing a sleeping house most needs, the assurance that the dark has not won, that a light is being kept, that someone has left it on for you and someone is watching it still. People have always kept one light against the night, and always for the same reasons. The lamp in the window for the one who is still out on the dark road. The candle left on the landing so a child who wakes will not wake to nothing. The night light by the bed. The lighthouse on its rock and the keeper who trims it. The one lamp is very old, older than railroads, older than gaslight, as old as the first people who sat up to keep a fire going while the others slept. It says the same thing every time, in every age. The dark is large and we're small, and yet we will keep one small light burning in it, and one of us will stay awake to tend it, and by that light and that watch we will all come through the night. James, turning down his wick in a swaying corridor in the summer of 1895, is doing a thing as old as people, keeping the one light, and there is deep comfort in standing in so long a line. He sees to the rest of the securing while he's about it, the small closings that put a car to bed, the door to the rear platform where the gentleman stood with his cigar, drawn to and fastened against the night air, the curtains left as the sleepers wanted them, the pantry set to rights, the last of the dinner washed and stowed away in the dark by feel. A car, like a house, has its nightly locking up, its going round to see that all is closed and safe, and James does it now, softly, room by room and latch by latch, so that the sleeping household is sealed warm inside against the rushing dark. That is the image to carry now, all the way to morning, wherever you are as you listen. The one low lamp in the sleeping car, the single light left awake. It will burn all night through the deep hours, through the switching of the car in the dark yards, through everything the night holds, and it will still be burning, faithful and low, when the first grey comes to the windows and the long dark is finally over. Whatever else happens between here and the dawn, that light stays lit. Let it be a small fixed point for your own drifting mind, the way it is for the sleeping house. The lamp is lit. It will not go out. You may let everything else go. James turns the wick of that last lamp down to just where he wants it, no lower, and steps back and looks at his sleeping car in its low light. The shut doors, the shining shoes, the dark shapes of the furniture, the one small glow. It is his now, this quiet, until morning. The family have handed the night over to him without a word, the way they hand him everything, and he takes it the way he always does, and settles down to keep it. Come and sit with him a while by the low lamp, because the deep part of the night is beginning, and there is no better company in it than the one soul in the house who has stayed awake to see everyone else safely through. So here we are, in the deep quiet of the car with the one low lamp and the one man awake to keep it. Everyone else is sleeping, the family behind their doors, the country out beyond the glass, and James settles into his place at the end of the car near the low lamp and begins the long still centre of his night, the watch. He does not undress. He never fully does on a night like this. A porter slept in his clothes, or something close to it. in a narrow berth or on a folding cot at the end of the car, near the door, near the bell, so that if anyone stirred in the night, if a child woke frightened, if the gentleman rang for water, if anything at all was needed, he could be up and there in a moment, awake and correct, as though he had never slept at all. His rest, such as it was a shallow listening rest, 3 or 4 hours of it at most, taken with one ear open, ready to surface at a sound. It is the sleep of anyone who watches over others in the night, a parent, a nurse, a shepherd, never quite all the way down, always half turned toward the ones in their care. For now he does not even lie down. He sits a while by the low lamp, letting the car run, letting the family sink deeper, keeping the first of the watch. Perhaps he goes softly once down the corridor, listening at the quiet doors, checking that all is well, that the lamps behind them are safely out, that no one is stirring. Perhaps he sits with his own thoughts, whatever they are, a man alone with the night and the wheels. The shoes are still to do later, in the smallest hours. For now there is only the sitting, the watching, the being awake so that others may sleep, which is the oldest and quietest form of care there is. And notice, as he sits there, that the whole feeling of the car has changed. The evening was full of things, the light, the dinner, the talk, the smoke. Now all of that is put away, and what is left is very simple and very deep. A dark, warm car, a single low lamp, sleeping people, one waking keeper, and under it all, holding it all, the steady voice of the car itself going on and on through the night. Let me give that voice its words, the words we will come back to in the deep of the night, so that whenever you surface, you will know exactly where you are. The wheels keep their beat, the lamp is still lit, the car is warm and the night is being carried. Say it over to yourself as you drift. The wheels keep their beat, the lamp is still lit, the car is warm and the night is being carried. Nothing in it needs doing by you, the beat keeps itself. The lamp is tended, the warmth holds, and the night, the whole long dark night between the city and the sea is being carried by the wheels below and the fire ahead, and the man by the lamp carried the way a sleeping child is carried up the stairs to bed, without ever knowing the journey, waking only in the morning already arrived. There is a whole quiet company of people, across all of history, who have done what James is doing now, who have stayed awake in the dark so that others could sleep in it. The shepherd on the hill with the flock keeping the long cold watch under the stars, the nurse on the night ward, moving softly between the beds, the parent walking the floor with the wakeful baby at 3 in the morning, the watchman on his round, the keeper on his rock. It is one of the oldest and kindest of all the things people do for one another, this staying awake so that another may let go, and it asks a particular gentleness, a willingness to be tired tomorrow so that someone else may be rested, to give up your own night for the sake of another's. James gives his tonight, as he gives it most nights, sitting in his clothes by the low lamp while the family sink into their dreams, and there is nothing small about it, whatever the pay. So if you are still awake as you listen, let this be the thing that finally lets you go. You do not have to keep watch tonight. Someone already is. The lamp is tended, the doors are checked, the bell is listened for, the whole warm car is held, and the night is being carried, and none of it, not one turn of the wheels, depends on you staying awake to see it. That is the deepest permission there is, and this journey offers it to you freely. You may set the watch down. You may close your eyes. The wheels will keep their beat without you, and the lamp will keep its light without you, and in the morning you will find, as the family will find, that the whole long night was crossed while you slept, and nothing was lost, and everything was kept. This is the gift James gives, sitting there in his clothes by the low lamp, and it is the gift this whole car is built to give, and it is, when you come down to it, the thing the listener came here tonight to receive, to be kept, to be watched over, to be allowed for once to let go completely, certain that someone else is awake and holding the world steady while you sleep. He does not think of it in such words. He thinks, if he thinks anything, of the run, of the time, of the shoe still to do, of the smooth curve coming up that he can feel under the floor. But that is what he is doing, all the same. He is keeping the night so that the rest of us do not have to. Out beyond the sleeping car, though, the night is wider than one car, and the keeping of it takes more hands than his. There is a whole train around us, and a whole railroad beyond that, and other men awake in the dark, each at his own post, each doing his own part to carry us on. Let us leave James a while by his low lamp, keeping his quiet watch, and go out into the larger night to meet the others who are awake in it. Come with me down the swaying train, and mind the dark, for the conductor is coming through with his lantern, and we will follow him. Let us slip out of our own car now, gently, the way you can only do in a story, and go forward into the rest of the train, into the long, dark string of cars running ahead of us through the night. Our family sleep behind us, kept by James and his low lamp. But they are not the only sleepers on this train, and James is not the only keeper. All down the length of it, in car after car, people sleep, and through them, all night, walks one man whose whole duty is to watch over the moving whole, the conductor. He comes down the train on his rounds, and if you have never seen it, it is a fine, quiet thing. A lantern in his hand, turned low, throwing a small pool of light that swings with his walk, his keys, his watch, which he carries the way a doctor carries his care, always aware of it, always checking it against the run. He moves through the sleeping cars with the ease of the long practice, riding the sway, steadying himself with a hand on a seat back here, a rail there, never quite touching a sleeper, never making a sound that would wake one. Through the dim cars he goes, past the curtained berths of the public sleepers, where strangers rest behind their green curtains, past the darkened seats, from one end of his train to the other, and back, all night long. At the end of each car there is the vestibule, the covered joining between one car and the next, and to pass through it is to step for a moment out of the warm hush and into the raw sound of the night. The vestibule was a newer thing in these years, an enclosed flexible passage that let a person walk the whole length of a train in safety, where once there had been only an open and dangerous gap between cars. Enclosed though it is still the loud, shaking, draughty seam of the train, where the roar of the wheels comes up hard through the floor, and the two cars work against each other with a groan and a jolt. The conductor crosses these seams 100 times a night without a thought, stepping from hush to roar to hush again, and thinks nothing of it, though a passenger who wandered out there half asleep would feel he had stepped to the very edge of the rushing world. There are others awake with him in the running dark, the brakemen who ride the train and tend its brakes and its signals, hardy men used to the cold and the wind and the high lonely places of the train that the passengers never see. In these years much of their work was hard and exposed. Out on the platforms and the car ends in all weather, coupling and uncoupling, passing signals by lantern, part of the great unseen labour that kept a train running safe through the night. They are out there now, somewhere along the train, doing their part so that the sleepers may sleep. The whole train, from end to end, is a machine for carrying rest, and it takes many waking hands to run it. The conductor's great charge, above everything, is the time. A railroad in these years ran on time the way a church runs on faith. Every train had its schedule, its slot in the great moving puzzle of the line, its meetings and its passings with other trains out in the dark, all worked out to the minute, all depending on every train being exactly where it was meant to be exactly when it was meant to be there, and so the conductor lives by his watch. He checks it against the stations as they pass, against the time points along the line, holding the whole run in his head, knowing at every moment whether he is on time, ahead, behind, and what must be done about it. It is a quiet, ceaseless, invisible labour of care, and the sleepers who depend on it entirely will never know he performed it. Now and then, out in the dark, the train meets another. It is one of the small wonders of a night journey, and the sleepers miss it entirely. Far ahead a light grows, a single headlamp swelling out of the blackness, and then, with a suddenness that would startle a waking passenger, the other train is upon us and past, a long blazing blur of lit and curtained windows tearing by a few feet away, a roar that swallows every other sound and then is gone, and the dark closes back over the track as though nothing had happened. Somewhere in that flashing string of windows, other sleepers were being carried the other way, west while we go east, each train a lit ribbon of rest crossing the dark, each blind to the other, both watched over, both on time. The conductor barely looks up. He knew the meet was coming, to the minute, and it came, and it is behind us now, and he goes on down his car with his lantern as though the whole roaring event had been nothing more than a page-turning. That is the heart of what he keeps, the certainty that turns the roaring dark into something safe. 2 trains meet at speed in the Black Country in the middle of the night, and it is a routine thing, a thing worked out in advance and carried off without a ripple, because men like him hold the times and the rules and the whole moving order of the line in their heads and never let it slip. The sleepers feel none of it. They do not know a train passed. They do not know a light grew and roared and vanished a few feet from their pillows. They sleep on, and the reason they can sleep on, through meets and passings and all the vast machinery of the night, is that someone is awake and holding it steady for them. Think of that as you drift, because it is a comfort of the deepest kind. All through the night, while everyone aboard lets go and sinks into sleep, one man stays awake with the time in his hand, making sure the train is where it should be, that it will meet what it must meet and pass what it must pass and arrive when it is meant to arrive. The sleepers surrender the night completely. They give up all knowing of where they are or how they are doing, and they can, because he does not. He holds the whole run steady in his mind so that they can put theirs down. It is the same gift James gives in our car, only stretched across the whole train, one waking mind keeping the shape of the night so that 100 sleeping ones need not. And here is the thread that ties it all together, the thing to carry with you into the deep of the night. In our car, the low lamp burns, and James keeps his watch. And forward, all down the train, the conductor walks his rounds with his own small lantern, keeping his. 2 small lights moving through the sleeping dark, and beyond them others, each one a waking soul with a light and a duty, all of them awake so that the rest may sleep. The wheels keep their beat. The lamps are still lit, his and ours both. The car is warm and the night is being carried, not by one keeper but by many, each at his post, all down the long train running east through the dark. Follow the conductor's lantern all the way to the front of the train, past the last of the sleeping cars, and you come at last to where the light gives out and the real dark begins, and beyond it, the engine. There, 2 men ride the open night at the very head of everything, feeding a fire that most of the sleepers will never think of even once. Come and stand with them a moment, in the wind and the firelight, because it is their fire that keeps you warm. Go all the way forward now, past the baggage, past the last coupling to the very head of the train, and step up into the cab of the locomotive, where the night is a different thing altogether. Back in our car there is warmth and hush and a low lamp. Here, at the front of everything, there is wind and noise and a great red fire, and 2 men riding the open dark at the point of the whole long train. This is the engine crew, the engineer and the fireman, and theirs is the hardest and most exposed post on the whole train. The cab is open to the weather, or nearly so, a shelter of steel and glass that keeps off the worst of it, and no more. The wind of the train's own speed pours through. In summer it is bearable and even fine, in winter it is bitter. And always there is the noise, the huge breathing roar of the locomotive, the beat of its exhaust, the rush of the wind, the scream of the whistle when the engineer pulls it, a world of sound so large that the 2 men speak to each other in signs and shouts and long habit more than in words. The engineer stands at his side of the cab with his hand near the throttle and his eyes on the dark ahead, and his whole night is watching. He watches for the signals, the coloured lamps that swim up out of the blackness far down the track red and green and yellow, telling him the road ahead, and he must see each one and know it and answer it. A clear road or a caution or a stop mile after mile, hour after hour, reading the night for the small lights that tell him whether all is well ahead. It is a fierce and lonely kind of watching, out there at the front, the first to meet whatever the night holds, responsible for the whole train that trails behind him full of sleeping souls who have no idea he's even there. And beside him works the fireman, and it is the fireman we have really come forward to see, because it is his labour that reaches all the way back to the sleeping family and keeps them warm. His job is the fire. He feeds it, shovel after shovel of coal from the tender behind, swinging the scoop up and into the open firebox in a steady rhythm all night long, so that the fire roars white hot and the water boils and the steam holds its pressure. It is heavy, hot, ceaseless work. The firelight red on his face when he opens the door, the cold wind at his back, the car pitching under him, and he does it over and over, keeping the fire fed, keeping the steam up, so that the great engine has the breath to pull the whole train on through the night. Now follow where that steam goes, because this is the quiet wonder of it. The fire boils the water becomes steam, and that steam does not only drive the wheels, it is also piped back, all down the length of the train, car after car, into the pipes that run beneath the seats and along the walls, the pipes that warm the cars. The heat in our car tonight, the gentle warmth around the sleeping family, the warmth that lets them lie easy under a light summer blanket, that heat began here, in this firebox, on this shovel, in this fireman's steady swing. The comfort of the sleepers, 300 feet back down the train, is quite literally the fireman's fire, carried back to them along the pipes, breath by breath, shovel by shovel, all night long. Sit with that a moment, because it is one of the most beautiful hidden connections in this whole journey. The family sleep warm, and they think, if they think at all, that the warmth is simply there, a property of the car like the wood or the carpet. They do not know that it has a source and a name and a face shining red in the firelight at the head of the train. They do not know that somewhere far ahead of them a man is swinging a shovel in the cold and the raw so that they can lie warm in the dark. The warmth is a gift passed hand to hand down the length of the train, from the fireman's fire to the sleeper's blanket, and the one who receives it never sees the one who gives it. That is the shape of this whole night, once more, written now in heat and steam across the whole length of the train. Every little while the engineer reaches up and pulls the whistle, and its long cry goes out across the sleeping country ahead, at the crossings, at the curves, a warning and a greeting and a lonely sound all at once. You may have heard it yourself, a train's whistle far off in the night, one of the most stirring and most melancholy sounds there is. And here we are at the very source of it, in the cab, where it is not far off and mournful but near and huge and full of purpose. It says, "Here we come, clear the way, a train is passing in the night," and then it dies away behind, out over the dark fields, to be heard faint and far by whoever else is awake out there, a farmer, a child, a person lying sleepless at a window, catching the sound of the night train going by and wondering, the way people always have, who is aboard and where they are bound, and what it would be to be carried through the dark like that toward somewhere far away. For the two men in the cab, it is a long night of company and solitude together. They are side by side the whole run, the engineer and the fireman, bound in a shared and serious work, and yet each is alone inside the roar, alone with the fire or alone with the dark road ahead, able to speak only in shouts and signs. There is a deep old bond in that kind of shared labour, two people awake together at the front of the sleeping world, trusting each other completely, the one reading the road, the other feeding the fire, each holding up his end of the night. They will run in together at dawn, tired and blackened and satisfied, having carried a whole trainload of sleeping strangers safely through the dark, and most of those strangers will step down and go off into their mornings, never once having thought of the two men at the head of the train at all. There is no resentment in the picture, and we will put none there. The fireman does his work as men have always done hard work, for his wage, for his pride, for the plain rightness of a job done well, and there is a deep satisfaction in that kind of labour that the soft sleepers behind him will never quite know. He keeps his fire because keeping the fire is his, and he is good at it, and the great engine answers to his shovel. But it is worth our knowing as we ride warm through the dark that the warmth has a keeper, out there in the wind, and worth our sending him, across all these years, a quiet word of thanks as we drift. The wheels keep their beat because his fire drives them. The car is warm because his fire warms it. The night is being carried, and he is one of the ones carrying it. Leave him now to his fire and his shovel, and let us drop back down the train, back through the roar of the vestibules and the hush of the sleeping cars, back toward our own warm car and its low lamp. But we will not get there without passing through one of the strangest quiet events of the whole night, a thing that happens in the small hours in a dark yard while every sleeper sleeps on. The train is going to be taken apart and put back together in the dark, and our car moved from one railroad to another, and hardly anyone will ever know. Come and see how it is done. Somewhere in the deep middle of the night the train slows. You feel it in your sleep, if you feel it at all, a gentle easing, a change in the rhythm, the long roll shortening, the beat of the wheels growing slower and further apart, and then, with a last soft sigh, a stop. The train has come to rest in a dark yard somewhere out in the night country, and for a little while the great motion that has cradled everyone all evening simply ceases, and there is a new and different quiet, the quiet of a train standing still in the dark. This was one of the necessities of a long journey in those years, and it is worth understanding, because it is a small marvel of unseen work. A private car did not always ride the whole way behind a single train on a single railroad. To get from the city to a place like Newport, the car might have to travel over the tracks of more than one company, and be moved from one train to another along the way, handed off in the night from line to line like a letter passed between post offices. And so, in some dark yard in the small hours, the car must be uncoupled from the train it has been riding, and coupled onto another, or shifted and sorted anew, all of it done while its owners sleep on inside, all of it done by men who work the yards through the night. Listen to how it sounds from inside, because it is one of the gentler music of the night. First the stop and the new stillness, then, out in the dark, the small sounds of men at work, a lantern's glow passing the window, a voice calling low, the crunch of boots on the cinders, then the couplings. A car is coupled to the next by a great iron knuckle, and when an engine takes up the slack of a string of cars or eases them together, the couplings engage one after another in a long, soft chain of knocks, running down the line, closer and closer, and then past and away. It is a sound like a giant very gently cracking his knuckles, far off and then near and then far, and it runs through the standing train and is gone. To a waking ear it is oddly soothing, a sign of careful work being done, of the train being tended in the night. There is a strange gentleness to a stop in the deep of the night, if you surface into it. All evening the motion has been constant, the sway, the beat, the endless roll, until the body has taken it as the very ground of things, and then it stops, and the sudden stillness is its own kind of event, a held breath, a hush inside the hush. The sounds you had stopped hearing come back, changed, the tick of cooling metal, the far hiss of steam, a bird somewhere in the dark that a passing lantern has stirred. And then, after a little while of this new quiet, the motion returns and rocks you back down, so that the stop from inside sleep is only a deepening, a place where the night gathers itself before going on. The family, if they stir at all, stir only far enough to feel that all is well, and sink again. Out in the yard, meanwhile, there is a whole small world at work in the dark. A rail yard at night is a place most people never see, a wide dim country of tracks and standing cars and switch stands, lit here and there by a lantern or a pole lamp, crisscrossed by the moving lights of the men who work it. There may be a little shanty with a stove where the yard crew warm their hands between moves and drink coffee, black and scalding out of tin cups. There are the long strings of cars waiting to be sorted, the puffing switch engine nosing them about, the clang and knock of the couplings, the low calls, the swinging lanterns that carry whole sentences to men who can read them. It is patient, skilled, unglamorous night labour, and it goes on in yards up and down the country every single night, mostly unseen, so that in the morning the trains are made up, and the cars are where they should be, and the freight and the sleepers alike have been moved on toward wherever they were going. Out in the yard the men do their work by lantern light. Yard men, switchmen, the night crews who spend their whole working lives in these dark spaces between the journeys, sorting cars, making up trains, uncoupling and coupling, throwing the switches that send a car down one track or another. It is skilled and dangerous work, done in the dark among moving iron, and they do it quickly and surely, with hand signals and lantern swings and long habit, so that a car can be cut out of one train and set into another in a matter of minutes, and the train made whole again and sent on. Our car is among the ones being moved tonight, eased gently off one train and on to its next stage, and the family sleep through every second of it. That is the wonder of it, really. All of this, the stopping, the uncoupling, the lanterns, the knocks, the switching from railroad to railroad, the whole careful taking apart and putting back together of the train, happens a few feet from where the family lie sleeping, and they never know. A man passes their window with a lantern, and they sleep. The couplings knock softly beneath their beds, and they sleep. The car is cut loose, moved, and joined to a new train bound onward toward the sea, and they sleep through all of it, and in the morning they will have no idea that in the night they were handed from one line to another in a dark yard by men whose names they will never hear. They lay down on one railroad and they will wake on another, carried across the seam without a ripple in their rest. There is something in that worth holding as you drift. The night is full of these handoffs, these quiet transfers of care from one set of hands to another, done in the dark while the cared for sleep. The car passes from railroad to railroad. The warmth passes from the fireman's fire to the sleeper's blanket. The watch passes, hour by hour, from one waking keeper to the next. And through all of it the sleeper simply sleeps, held the whole time, never dropped, carried across every seam by hands that know their work, so that the journey, which is really a dozen journeys stitched together, feels from inside like one single unbroken night of rest. That is a kind of miracle of care, and it is happening all around the sleeping family right now, in the dark yard under the lanterns. Then it is done. The last coupling takes up its slack with a soft knock. A whistle sounds far ahead, low in the night, and slowly, gently, the car begins to move again, the long roll returning, the beat of the wheels picking up once more, 2 beats and a pause, 2 beats and a pause, and the yard slides away behind, and the dark country opens up ahead, and the train runs on toward the coast, whole again, carrying its sleepers on. The wheels keep their beat. The lamp is still lit back in our car, faithful and low. The car is warm, and the night is being carried across every seam without a single sleeper ever knowing. Back in our own car the low lamp burns on, and James keeps his watch, and the family sleep, and now we come to the very deep of the night, the stillest and quietest part of it all. The hours when the whole world seems to hold its breath. Come and rest there with me a while, in the small hours, where there is almost nothing left to do but drift. Now we come to the deepest part of the night, the small hours, the time when even the word for it goes soft, and there is very little left to say, and that is exactly as it should be. This is the hour to stop gathering things and simply rest inside the one thing that is left, the car, running steady through the dark, carrying its sleepers on toward the morning. Everyone is asleep now. The family deep behind their doors, the public sleepers all down the train, and you, perhaps nearly wherever you are. Even James, by his low lamp, has let himself sink at last into his own shallow, listening rest. The shoes all shined and set back, gleaming outside the doors, his work done until dawn, dozing in his clothes with one ear open for a bell that will not ring. There is no one left who needs anything. There is nothing left that must be done. There is only the car and the night and the long steady run through the dark. And so, let us do almost nothing for a while. Let us just be here, in the deep of the night, and feel it. The sway, first, always the sway, the long, slow roll of the heavy car on the good track, side to side, patient and even, the motion that has carried us all evening and will carry us all night, the oldest cradle in the world. Feel how the whole car leans and holds and eases back and leans again, over and over, asking nothing, promising only more of the same. If you are lying down as you listen, let your body find that roll, and go with it, and let it rock you the way it is rocking the sleeping family, down and down. Then the beat of the wheels beneath it, softened by the carpet and the padded walls until it is less a sound than a pulse. 2 beats and a pause, 2 beats and a pause, the heartbeat of the running train. It has been there all along, under the dinner, under the talk, under the closing doors, and now in the quiet you can hear it plainly, steady as a clock, steady as breathing, going on and on through the dark. It is a sound with no edges, nothing to catch on, nothing to wake for, a sound the mind can rest against completely and let carry it under. And the one low lamp burning on in the corridor, the single light left awake in the sleeping car. It has not gone out. It will not go out. It burns low and faithful through the deepest hour, throwing its small steady glow across the shut doors and the shining shoes, keeping the dark from being total, keeping its old promise that a light is being tended and the night will be seen through. You do not have to watch it. That is the point. It is watched for you. It burns whether you wake or sleep, and it will still be burning when the grey comes, and knowing that, you can let your own eyes close. The wheels keep their beat, the lamp is still lit, the car's warm and the night is being carried. Let those words come around again, slow, like the sway itself, and let them mean exactly what they say. The beat keeps itself, the lamp keeps its light, the warmth holds all around you, and the night, the whole enormous dark night between the city and the sea, is being carried by the wheels and the fire and the watch, carried for you, without you, while you rest. There is nothing in it that waits on you. There is nothing you must hold. You may put it all down now, every last thing, and sink. Out beyond the black glass the country runs by, unseen and unminded, fields and woods and sleeping farms, the whole dark land pouring past at speed while the little lit car holds steady in the middle of it, warm and swaying and safe. The distance is being spent for you, mile after mile, quietly, without your lifting a finger or opening an eye. When you wake it will all be behind you, crossed, done, and the sea will be there instead. That is the promise of the night train, the oldest and kindest promise travel ever made, that you may lie down in one place and simply wake in another, with all the hard, dark miles between them crossed in your sleep by other hands. So rest now, here in the small hours, in the deepest and safest part of the night. There is a long, gentle while yet before the grey comes to the windows, hours of steady running through the dark, and nothing in them asks anything of you at all. The car sways, the wheels beat, the lamp burns low, the keepers keep their watch, and you are carried and carried and carried on toward a morning that will arrive entirely on its own. When it does, the first thing to stir in the whole sleeping car will be, of all people, the cook, rising in the dark to make the day begin with warmth. Let us go to him, softly, as the very first edge of grey touches the eastern sky. The very first person to stir in the whole sleeping car, before any light has touched the windows, before the family have moved at all, is the cook. Henry rises in the dark, while everyone else sleeps on, and begins quietly to make the morning. And there is something deeply tender in that the day should begin, for a whole carful of sleepers, with one man getting up in the black early hours to make sure that when they wake, there is warmth and coffee and the smell of breakfast waiting. It is still fully night when he wakes. There is no grey in the windows yet, only the same deep dark that has held for hours. But Henry knows the time the way James knows it, and the conductor knows it, by long habit, by the feel of the run, and he knows that morning is coming, and that a good morning must be made before it arrives, not after. So he rises from his short rest, and goes to his little kitchen and begins. First the range. The fire has burned low through the night, banked down to almost nothing, and he brings it back, feeds it, coaxes it up, until the little room begins to warm again, and the top of the stove ticks with the coming heat. There is a particular comfort in a fire being lit in the cold dark of early morning, one of the oldest comforts there is, the first small defiance of the night, the first promise that the day will be warm. Henry has lit this fire, or one like it, in the dark, on a moving train, more mornings than he could count, and his hands do it without his having to think, striking the light, feeding the flame, bringing the warmth back to the little room at the end of the sleeping car, then the coffee. This is the smell that will reach the sleepers first, long before they wake, threading down the car from the kitchen, through the corridor with its one low lamp under the doors of the staterooms, into the edges of their dreams. Coffee in the early dark is one of the great human kindnesses, and Henry makes it now strong and hot, so that its smell can go ahead of the morning and touch the sleepers gently, the first soft signal that the night is ending and something warm is being prepared for them. Many a person has swum up out of sleep on a train toward exactly that smell, not knowing at first where they were, only that somewhere near someone was making coffee in the dark, and that all was well, and then the breakfast itself begun in the quiet. Whatever the morning will bring, eggs, ham, toast, a fish perhaps, fruit, it is started now, laid out, made ready, so that when the family stir it can be finished quickly and brought to them hot. Henry works his little kitchen in the dark the same way he worked it in the evening, swaying with the car, reaching without looking, everything in its place. One man making a household's breakfast in 7 feet by 12 while the household sleeps on, unknowing a few feet away. Henry is the one who works latest and rises earliest, and he carries it lightly. He was at his range through the dinner hours while the family dined, and he cleaned down his little kitchen after, and he took what rest he could in the small hours, and now here he is again before the dawn, first up in the whole car making the morning. If you asked him whether it was hard, he would likely shrug, because it is simply the shape of his work, the shape it has always had, and there is a quiet pride in being the one who makes the warmth, the one the whole car depends on for its comfort at either end of the night. He is tired, surely, in the way that people who tend others are always a little tired, but it is a good tiredness, the tiredness of useful work well done, and the warm little room and the smell of the coffee are his own reward as much as anyone's. The first good things of the day, made by his own hands in the dark. The car itself is beginning to wake around him, softly, the way a house wakes. James stirs at his end up from his shallow rest and moves quietly about the early tasks. The shoes to be set back at the doors, the public rooms to be set right, the day to be made ready for the family to step into. Mr. Cole rises too to see to the morning table. All through the car the keepers are coming awake ahead of the family, exactly as they went to work ahead of them the evening before, so that once again the family will meet only the finished thing, a warm car, a hot breakfast, a bright morning, with all its making done for them and folded quietly away. The pattern holds to the very last. The labour going on ahead in the dark so that the ease can arrive in the light. Out beyond the windows, now at last the first change comes. It is very slight at first, so slight you might miss it. A thinning of the black, a sense that the glass is no longer quite a mirror, that there is something out there beginning to be seen. The deep dark of the night loosens by degrees toward the faintest grey. The shapes of the country begin dimly to return. A line of trees, the loom of a hill, a fence, a field coming back out of the dark where they have been hidden all night. Morning is coming, the way it always comes, not with any drama, but slowly, softly, a grey light seeping up at the edge of the world while most of the world still sleeps. Inside, the car is warming again from Henry's fire, and the coffee smell is spreading, and the one low lamp that burned all night is beginning, for the first time, to be outshone just a little by the grey growing at the windows. The night is nearly over. It has been kept all the way through by the cook and the porter and the conductor and the crews, kept warm and safe and moving, and now it is handing itself over gently to the day. Soon the family will stir, soon the sea will show at the windows, but the listener need not stir at all. Let the family wake if they like. You may stay exactly where you are, warm in the made bed, while the last of the night gives way to the first of the morning, and the car runs down its final miles toward the water. Come and see the end of it now, the grey at the windows and the bay appearing, as gently as anything in this whole long night. And so we come to the end of the night, the way you come to the end of all good nights, without quite noticing the moment it happens, the dark simply thinning into grey, the grey warming into silver, and the world coming quietly back at the windows while the car runs on toward the sea. The country outside is real again now. All night it was only a rumour, a blackness beyond the glass, a distance being crossed unseen. Now, in the growing light, it returns, field by field and tree by tree, and it is a coast country, low and green and wet with dew, stone walls running along the fields, the land beginning to break apart into inlets and coves, the first shine of water showing here and there in the hollows. And then, at last, the bay itself, wide and pale and still under the early sky, Narragansett Bay opening out beyond the windows, and somewhere across it drawing nearer, the island where the season waits. The salt is strong in the air now, unmistakable. The smell the gentleman caught the first thin thread of hours ago on the rear platform, come full at last. The sea is here. The journey is nearly run. The family begin to stir. The coffee smell has reached them, and the grey light, and the change in the motion as the train slows toward its destination, and one by one they surface, warm and rested, out of the deepest sleep they have had in weeks. A door opens along the corridor. A soft good morning is exchanged. The daughter, who was more than half asleep before dinner was even over, wakes clear-eyed and new. The whole long night behind her crossed without a memory, as though she lay down in the city and rose at the sea with nothing at all between. That is what the night train gives, and they have all received it. A whole hard stretch of dark country, 3 states of it, crossed entire in their sleep and delivered in the morning rested to the shore. The light grows while they wake, and the arrival gathers itself gently at the windows. There are gulls now, wheeling white against the pale morning sky, and the cry of them comes thin through the glass, the sound of the coast, the sound of somewhere near the sea. The water widens and brightens as the sun comes up behind the low clouds, going from pale grey to pewter to a soft early gold, and boats show on it, small and still, and the far shore of the island draws steadily nearer across the bay. The train runs its last easy miles along the water's edge, slowing, the long night's speed all spent now, coming in at a walk toward the little station where the carriages will be waiting and the season will begin. It is one of the loveliest arrivals there is, a summer dawn coming in off the sea after a night carried through the dark, and the family stand at the windows with their coffee and watch it come, and the keepers are still keeping right to the end. Henry has the breakfast hot. James is up and correct in his uniform, The one low lamp turned out at last now that the day has come, the shining shoes returned to their doors, the car being readied even now for its arrival. Mr. Cole is laying the morning table. Up ahead the conductor is bringing his train in on time to the minute, as he swore all night he would. And far forward the fireman's fire is easing now, its long night's work nearly done, having kept the whole train warm across the dark and delivered it, breathing steam into the morning air to the edge of the sea. Every one of them worked through the night so that this ordinary miracle could happen. A family waking rested at the shore, and every one of them will hand the family down and turn at once to the next task, the cleaning, the restocking, the readying of the car for its run back, their night's labour invisible in the very completeness of its success. Here then is the question we began with, back in the dark at the start of the night. Who keeps the one light burning while you sleep? We have watched the answer all night long, and now we can say it plainly. It is careful hands you never meet. It is a porter by a low lamp, dressed and ready for a bell that does not ring. It is a cook rising in the black hours to make you warmth. It is a conductor with the time in his head and a lantern in his hand, and a fireman feeding a fire far ahead in the cold, and yardmen passing your sleeping car from one railroad to the next without a ripple in your rest. It is all of them, the whole quiet company of the night's keepers, awake so that you could sleep, and the one low lamp in the corridor was only the sign of them, the small steady proof that someone was watching, that the dark was tended, that you were being carried the whole time and would be set down safe in the morning. That is who keeps the light, and they kept it all the way, and here is the morning to prove it. So before the day takes you, let us do the thing this channel always does at the end. Let us not send you off the car and out into the bright morning with the waking family. Let us leave you exactly where you are, in the warmest place in this whole warm world, the made bed of the last stateroom, clean linen turned down, the little lamp low, the small window filling now with silver light off the bay. The car rocks on, gentle as ever, down its last few miles. The coffee smell is in the air. The keepers move quietly about their work, and none of it, not one bit of it, asks anything of you. You do not have to wake. You do not have to rise. You do not have to arrive. The car will arrive without you, the way it crossed the whole night without you, carried by hands that know exactly what they are doing. You may stay here, warm, held, rocked, while the bay brightens at the little window and the season waits ashore, and the whole long, lovely night settles at last into an ordinary golden morning that you are welcome to sleep straight through. Stay in that bed a moment longer with me, because it is worth resting in, this feeling, before we let the morning have the last word. All night you were carried. You did not tend the fire, and yet you were warm. You did not keep the light, and yet the light was kept. You did not watch the time or read the road or hold the whole run steady in your mind, and yet the run was steady, and the time was held, and you were brought safe across the dark to the morning without lifting a hand or opening an eye. That is the rarest thing a night can give, and this one gave it freely, the way it was given to the sleeping family, the way it has been given to travellers on night trains for as long as there have been night trains, to be carried wholly and to trust it and to let go. There is a deep old peace in that, older than railroads, and it is yours as much as theirs tonight, wherever you are lying, whatever hour it is where you are. And notice, as you rest there, how gentle the ending is. Nothing has been resolved with a shock. Nothing has been lost. The night simply did its long, quiet work and delivered everyone safe to the light, which is what the best nights do, and what this channel means to do for you as well, night after night. The hard miles were crossed in the dark, out of sight, gently. The warmth held, the keepers kept, and the morning came as it always comes and found everyone rested. That is the whole of it, and it is enough, and there is nothing in it to hold on to and nothing to fear, only a warm bed in a slowing car on a bright bay, and a long good night behind you, and the day waiting patiently for whenever, or never, you choose to meet it. And it is all still there, most of it. if you ever want to go and stand in it. The great houses these families were riding towards still stand at Newport, opened now to anyone who cares to walk through them. The breakers, finished in this very summer of 1895, the summer of our journey, still looks out over the sea from its lawns, its great rooms open to the light. The marble cottages still line Bellevue Avenue. Some of the private cars themselves survive, restored and loved. The Atalanta among them with its 4 little staterooms, and here and there one still rides the rails behind a scheduled train, so that the exact thing we have done tonight, being hauled through the dark in a beautiful moving room, has never entirely ended. Even the words of that world are still in your mouth, if you have ever spoken of upstairs and downstairs, or of keeping up with the Joneses, or of the 400 who once made up society. And the men who kept the night on the rails were not forgotten either. In time the porters joined together and stood up for themselves, and their long, careful work in the dark is honoured now, remembered, given at last the name it always deserved. Nothing warm is ever quite lost. It settles into the houses that still stand, and the words we still say, and the rest we still find on a moving train in the dark, carried the way people have always carried one another through the night. The bay is bright now at the window. The car is slowing toward the island. The night is over, and it was kept. From the first lamp lit against the dusk to the last one turned out in the morning, kept warm and safe and whole by careful hands, for the family and for you. The gates are closed, the car is warm, and the one lamp still burns, and the house will keep till morning. Sleep well, friend. If any part of tonight stayed with you, the one low lamp, the fire far ahead, the sway of the car in the dark, leave it in a comment for me before you go, or in the morning, whenever you surface. A quiet like and a subscribe. Help these long nights find the others who are lying awake and looking for exactly this. And when you are ready for another one, I will have another night waiting, in another great house by the sea, with the lamps low and the fires banked and someone awake to keep them. Until then, sleep well. You have been carried all the way, and you may rest now. Good night.